Hello and welcome to another episode of the SME Focus Show brought to you by Factory Now TV. I'm your host, Christopher Greeno, and in this series we focus on SMEs within the British manufacturing sector and indeed those supporting the sector. Every week we discuss and analyse the challenges and opportunities facing the sector in these unprecedented times. We've got an election looming, so let's see what chaos that brings in the next 5 weeks. As I say, I'm Christopher Greeno. I'm CCO at SD Technology, one of the leading manufacturers of pressings and assemblies in the UK. So hopefully you can appreciate this show is very much for manufacturers and indeed by manufacturers. Joining me this week, I've got great pleasure in introducing Bernard Bagley, who is Robotics Consultant at BPX Electro Mechanical Ltd. Goodness me, Bernard, that's a mouthful. Should we just stick with BPX?
Yeah, BPX sounds good to me.
Fantastic. Good morning. Thank you for coming on the show. So tell me about BPX and your role.
Yeah, so BPX is a privately owned SME. It's owned by 3 brothers that inherited it from their father. It started way back in the 60s, and it's now a fairly large distribution company. Yeah. With 14 branches throughout the UK and 1 in Ireland in Carlo. The principal activities are distribution of automation technology. So they represent companies like Schneider Electric, Omron, and Mitsubishi, among many others. But they're the 3 main distribution partners. Okay. And my role within the company is a relatively new one. So I've been brought in to develop the sales of robotics.
Okay. And you were over in Ireland this week at a show?
I was at in Dublin at the Automation and Robotics show. It was very interesting, and I met quite a few of our distribution partners out there, as well as looking up some old friends at KUKA Robotics and also Morgan Rusk, who's the director of BPX Ireland, based out of Carlo.
Very good. And you spent your career so far promoting and selling robotic solutions. How's the sector changed over the years?
Well, when I first came, let's go back a little bit further. I've always been involved in manufacturing, primarily in plastic injection molding. Yeah. And then in 2015, I joined the true automation business by joining KUKA Robotics. Yeah. And at that time, the business was not just KUKA's, but the business of robotic automation was just really starting to get going. And normally throughout the UK and Ireland, there's about 2,000 robots sold every year across all brands. Yeah. And today, I think with the introduction of the more what's generically known as cobots, although that's another subject, the numbers are increasing, but there's still a lack of investment by the SMEs, which is what my entire focus is about.
And as you say, I mean, why is the take-up of robotics in the UK lagging behind other countries? There just doesn't seem to be the take-up quick enough, does there?
No, and it's being a glass half full sort of guy. I look at it and say that gives everybody a huge opportunity. Yeah. But I think primarily it's a fear. The COVID pandemic caused a big stir up of people's thinking behind putting robots on production lines because of mainly the food and beverage industry. But I think, if I'm honest, I think there's a lack of confidence in the fact that robotic automation, along with people, increases a company's output and therefore increases their profitability. But I think there's still this stigma attached that robots will take jobs away, which they don't. If you look at the countries that have the highest unit of robotics per 10,000 employees, South Korea is the largest. Then you've got countries like Japan, Germany. They're all countries that have low unemployment. So the sort of stigma isn't really. It's a myth more than anything else.
And that's the myth that we need to break down. Now, as you said, you've got robots, but also now we have cobots. So is that an easier way for an SME to get automation into a business?
Yeah, I think the advent of cobots going back sort of 10 years has opened up the opportunity for smaller companies to dip their toe in the water. Very often you do find that what is deemed to be a cobot application ends up being a standard robot with guarding. But what it does is it allows the SME to sort of have a look at some simple automation. And the price point these days of the cobots is such that most SMEs can afford it. They still need to be convinced about the return on investment, but that's the job of people like myself.
Absolutely. And obviously with things like Made Smarter, there is funding available for a first automation, whether that be digitization, cobots, robots. So where do you see the sector going? As you said, about 2,000 robots being sold every year into UK and Ireland. Where do we need to get to in terms of numbers to catch up with the rest of the world?
Well, there's a long way to go. I think the spikes you see, so 2,000 is kind of the average number over the years that BARA have been, which is now called Automate, have been collecting data. You do see spikes when the likes of JLR or Nissan either do a refurb of a line or install a new line.
Yeah.
But the average number in general industry is about 2,000. I think, the reality is, if you compare us to, say, I mean, it's hard. You can't really compare country by country. But if you look at Italy, it's something like 8,000 robots a year.
Yeah.
It's a huge number. And then you look at Germany, it's even larger. But I think where we need to get to is we need to get to the point where people are confident that robots create work. They don't, create jobs, I should say. They don't take jobs away. And there's many studies that prove that robots and alongside people is by far the best way to go. Obviously car lines like, producing an automobile, they're fully automated, but there's still stuff that needs to be done. If you consider the food industry, for instance, which is one of the biggest growing sectors.
Yeah.
Food companies have fully automated equipment. They just don't have anything that brings the product to it and away from it. So they're more than halfway there, and it's just that final push, that little, 10% to make the investment.
Absolutely. And certainly for SMEs in the UK, if we could get all the SMEs in the UK more digital, more automated, with more robots, the increase in GDP would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
It would be fantastic. Yeah, I was at the Omron Flexible Manufacturing Show at the RAF Cosford Museum last week. Yeah. It was amazing. It was a lovely venue, but an interesting fact came out. Only 65% of all machines are not connected, and only 12% are using live data. That's unbelievable. That's not just the UK. That's the way it is globally. Yeah. So there's huge, opportunities to improve. And as you say, the digitization is, collecting that data and for meaningful reasons to use it. Yourself in your business, it's all about improving the output, the quality, and the consistency of production.
Absolutely. Now, I know you've only been at BPX for 6 weeks, still finding your feet, still thriving on the new challenge. What does the rest of the year hold for you and the team?
Yeah, so it's exciting for me because my role at BPX is a relatively new one. There's 180 people. Most of those are directly involved in sales. So my job is now to assist the sales team in finding opportunities for robotic automation alongside all the other areas that they sell, with all the PLCs, the IPCs, the push buttons, everything that they sell. They've got a huge portfolio. So it's really exciting, and my job is to build a small team that will assist me to do that.
Brilliant. Bernard, thank you for your time today. Thank you for telling us about BPX, and good luck in the future for the role.
Yeah, no, thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Bernard. That brings us to the end of another show. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to meeting more of our great British manufacturing stars like Bernard next week. If you would like to get in touch with the show with a comment, suggestion, or even to appear on a future episode, please email us tv@mtd.media. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. So from me, Chris G at SDE, goodbye.